welcome to the Mommyana Podcast with Donna, Kate, and Aaliyah. We are here to keep it real with y'all and revel the beauty of motherhood. And today we have a guest, so I'll let her speak a little.
My name is Terri. I am a mom of twins. I'm 27 and my twins just celebrated their first birthday yesterday. Their names are Zachariah, and he was my firstborn baby, and Zaire. And it's honestly the best. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So nice. So I guess we just kind of want to learn more about your experience of being a mom with twins. I mean, all of us are only carrying single babies right now. So what was that like? Like, can you kind of just talk about your pregnancy? Like, did you have any struggles or complications? What was that like for you?
Yeah. So their dad and I had developed this. I've always wanted kids. So as like a background, I've always wanted to be a mom. I went through some experiences in my early 20s that really let me know I wanted to grow as a person, because my ultimate goal in life was to be a mom. So throughout that, me meeting their dad and us deciding that we wanted to be together and stuff like that, I shared I wanted to, start a family and stuff. And he's very artistic, and he wanted to, he had a lot of goals for himself before that. So we were like, yeah, let's have kids when we're 30. That's fine. So finding out that we came back from a festival and I felt really weird. I didn't know what was going on. I was like kind of bloated, and I felt like I was a little bit late. And so we came back from the festival and I took 3 pregnancy tests, and I swear to you, within like 5 seconds, it was like 2 dark blue lines. It was just like, yes. Yeah, I didn't have to wait a minute, nothing. It just instantly showed. I should have known then. But so I think at that point I was about 5 weeks pregnant. I know my exact date that we conceived and stuff, but I let him know, and it was honestly such a huge shock. He had planned to move to LA in 2 weeks, so that kind of like halted a lot of things for us. And so fast forward to me being, I want to say 7 weeks pregnant. I was between 7 and 9 weeks, and I had my first ultrasound, and she was like, all right, I see 1 embryo and 2 embryo, and let's check for a 3rd one. And she said it's so
hard
fast.
stuff. Yeah.
She said it's so fast. Like, you see what? So I remember instantly, like, and she was very nonchalant with it, and I just like instantly started crying because their dad was out in he was waiting. So I called him and I was like, hey, we're not pregnant with 1 baby, it's 2 babies. And it was like, we were totally in shock. And I spent a lot of time processing that. I think my desire to want to be a mom so bad, and finding out that I had 2 I can't even describe the feeling. So we didn't really announce anything until I was 18 weeks pregnant. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we had not only announced that I was pregnant, but with twins, and they were boys, and their names. So we kind of just came out with everything at once. But I went through a flutter of emotions. At first, I was kind of just purely in shock. When people would be like, oh my gosh, are you so excited? I'd be like, I don't really know. I don't know. Yes, of course. Yeah. But I guess the experience of like my pregnancy, I was very, very sick from week 6, kind of like right after I found out I was pregnant. From week 6 to 22, I was like extraordinarily sick. I couldn't hold anything down. I was throwing up like 10 plus times a day. It was nuts. And I didn't want to, I tried to be as natural as possible while I was pregnant with him. So my doctor would offer me medications, and I really didn't want to do that. I don't know how progressive or how most moms feel. I took to CBD, and I would take like one edible a day, and honestly that completely cleared my symptoms. Like, it allowed me to eat and drink and kind of keep things down. I talked to some twin moms, and they went through the same experience, and they had to be hospitalized due to dehydration and malnourishment from just not being able to like eat anything. And while I understood their sickness, I kind of didn't share the same experience, because I took to those remedies to help me eat and drink, and I stayed out of the hospital. And while you're pregnant, you don't really know what's going to alter your baby and how they're going to turn out. So I did have those worries, having THC in my body, but being pregnant with two, you run into a lot of health risks. I had what's called Modi twins, so they shared the same placenta. So they had their own amniotic sacs, but they shared the same placenta. So
Is it common for twins to have two placentas?
That's ideal.
That's ideal. Okay. I didn't know
That's
that.
ideal, because they'll get their own nourishment that way.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not sharing the same source of nourishment; they're getting their own. So the fear with that is one will take more than the other, and the other will end up smaller. It harms both of them in a way. So I went through, I had an appointment a week. I would see them once a week, and that was fun. Not everybody gets that experience to see, you kind of got to wait a few weeks. So it was really cool going through that. And those types of appointments kind of gave me sound that they were growing really well, and whatever I was doing was, good. And I had them at a good, they came out healthy, and that's all that mattered for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. How many weeks were you when you delivered them?
I was 35 weeks and 3 days.
Oh my gosh, I keep hearing that, and I'm like 32 weeks. I'm like, that could be in 2.
Yeah.
Like Kate, I did not see you on social media this weekend, and I was like, oh, wait. I went back and looked at the time and was like, what is happening, Terri?
I was hibernating this week, and I was so tired.
I was like, but she's only 32, like going on 33, so we should be okay. But it definitely crossed my mind. I was like, wait a second.
I know. I keep thinking, I'm like, any day now.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, that's cool though. Did you give birth to them naturally, or did you have a C-section? What was that?
That's still kind of a sensitive topic for me, only because I think wanting to be a mom so bad, I had already had a birth plan before I even knew who I was going to end up with. Like, I knew that I wanted to have a natural water birth. I wanted it to be very serene and have music playing and my partner behind me. And like, I had this whole vision in my head. I created like a playlist, and it was so. The second I found out I had twins, my entire birth plan went out the window. Because at that point I knew that I had to do whatever was best for them. Mm-hmm. So throughout the like I shared, I tried to do things naturally. But the twins tried to come early twice. So at 28 weeks, I went into preterm labor, and I had a 6-day hospital stay where they gave me steroids for their growth and developing their lungs, and magnesium to develop their brain. And then they tried to come again at 31 weeks, where I had a 16-day hospital stay. They actually wanted me to stay there until the end, until they came. because I live about 45 minutes away from the hospital. So our concern and our fear was maybe I wouldn't get there in time. But luckily they let me go home and share my last few moments with them. And so with those hospital stays, we talked a lot about how I wanted to deliver. And the big thing with twins is baby A has to be bigger than baby B to pave the way. And throughout all of my ultrasounds, we discovered that baby B which is Zaire, seemed to be a little bit bigger than Zachariah. So we didn't want to risk me delivering Zachariah, and then I'd have to have an emergency C-section to deliver Zaire. So I chose to have a C-section out of the safety of my babies. So the day that I had them, I knew that was the day the governor announced the shutdown for New Mexico. And I was like, I almost don't care because I'm going to have my babies today. I kind of felt it. And I went throughout the day normally, and my water never broke or anything like that. I kind of lost a little bit I just felt weird. And I told my parents, I was like, I think today is the day. I don't know. And so I took a nice hot shower. I was sharing with Kate earlier, that last bath and that last shower before you deliver is so important. Like, this is the last I'll have to myself. So I took a nice long shower, and when I got to the hospital, they were like, yeah, you're 7 centimeters dilated. It's time.
You were already 7 centimeters and you didn't
Stop
feel
right there.
or like, was it just, you're just coasting and chilling? Wow, that's
Stop right there.
Yeah.
I felt
the contractions, they weren't like intense for you?
Like you didn't feel nothing?
Nothing. And I know that's crazy, but I felt weird. That's all I can describe it. Like I felt maybe that my cervix was probably dilating is maybe what I felt.
Yeah.
And I had this like just feeling inside of me that it was the day. But other than that, I felt no even up till the moment, like up to me. So I got to the hospital around 9:15 and I delivered Zachariah at 10:24. So everything happened really, really fast, and I got anxiety and I started crying. And so when I had them and I had the C-section, I found out their weights. Zachariah ended up being bigger than Zaire. And so for the days after that, I felt really emotional because I really wanted to deliver them naturally. And the saddest part is I really could have delivered them naturally because I wasn't in pain. I wasn't having these crazy contractions. It felt like my body was ready to do that for me. And I didn't. So that was kind of a weird thing for me and hurtful, but it's okay. Whatever got them here safely is all that mattered to me, truly.
For sure.
So since that was the announcement of the shutdown of COVID and stuff, was the hospital crazy? Like, did nobody get to go in with you at all? Like, how was that experience? Because that would be chaotic. Like the day of the shutdown, you're going in.
Yeah.
It was so. I actually just wrote a really long for school, a really long paper about this, and so the days before me delivering, I was watching the world news about the pandemic, and I remember I was in the hospital at the time, and I was asking my doctor, like, should I be doing anything? Like, are there any precautions? Like, people were coming and visiting me, and flying in to visit me, and because they didn't know if I was going to have the twins or not, and it was so unknown. I would go into the hospital and wear a mask just because I didn't want to be like sick with anything. But I remember hearing on the news, like, you don't have to wear a mask. It's not viral. Like they didn't, it was so unknown at the time. So with the governor announcing the shutdown that day, the hospitals were a little bit behind on that. Nobody knew what to do. So my family that day because I delivered at 10:24 p.m. That day, my family was able to come with me. They waited in the lobby for me. I had about 10 people, um, and from both sides of our family, 10 people together. And, um, but that night, around like 5 p.m., they shut down the NICU from having any other visitors. So me and their dad were the only people who could go into the NICU. And that was okay. Because really I wanted that private time with my babies. And so the next day I was able to have the hospital shut it down to 2 visitors. So I was able to have 2 visitors at a time. So my parents came and his parents came. And then the next day they shut it down from just having your support person.
Mm.
So just their dad was able to come and visit me. And so I was in the hospital for 4 days. Then the days after that, my babies were in the hospital, or were in the NICU for 8 days, which was honestly a grateful moment. I was so blessed for them to be as healthy as they were. They didn't need a feeding tube. They didn't need oxygen. They were so healthy. So during that 8 days, there was one day and I was like pumping. So when you're pumping, you kind of have a fever, like your temperature can be a little bit higher because you're producing your milk. So I came in and I had like a little fever. I was like 99. I was almost 100. And she almost wasn't going to let me see my babies. And the mom in me, because I was already having a hard time being away from them. I live 45 minutes away. I can only visit them once a day because realistically I can't, and I'm trying to take care of myself from having a C-section. So the emotions in me almost went completely off at that time. And I was like, look, I'm pumping. I have a fever. You can call my doctor. You can.
Yeah.
And she kind of knew I was getting emotional. So she just let me go. She was like, okay, it's fine. Go ahead, go see him. And, but really I felt like I was in a little bubble. The pandemic hadn't hit me yet. I wasn't affected by it just yet. Like, my parents had to be out in the world going to stores and they saw the effects of it, the stores being empty. But I felt on such a high and in a bubble with them that I didn't really notice the effects until we came home and I had to, people couldn't see them and it was tough. It was hard and, they've still not gone many places. They've still not met family members and it's been a whole year.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Sure. I understand that. That's like crazy though. So like how has it been, I guess, like since they've been here? Like it's fine that you said they haven't been able to see certain family members and go a lot of places, but like I guess we could just talk more about your experience raising twins now, like going from 0 to 2, that's a huge life change. So like how has that been, like adjusting to that for you?
I get asked this often and I don't know the difference. So I don't know what it's like to have one baby and the difference of going from 0 to 1. And like for me, I think my body just did it. I would say that it required everything of me. So wanting to have had kids, I was ready to devote. I'm such a caretaker naturally, and I find that me taking care of either my partner or other people, it's not quite the same. So I was really ready to devote myself to something. And so when I had them, I loved it. Like I loved having to care for both of them. And it was really hard at first because I was getting 0 sleep. Like, I mean, 0 sleep. Even with their dad being really supportive and being there for me the first few months, like he lived in with me for the first few months and it was still like no sleep. And throughout the process of us having them, decided to co-parent, and that was rough. I just had 2 babies. We're in a pandemic, and now I'm going through this heartbreak, and us trying to navigate that the best way possible, because kind of when you go through such a significant heartbreak, I think maybe we all have in our lives, that's tough on you, and you fall into some type of depression, and having them, I couldn't really do that. I didn't want to give them less of myself. Sorry, I have a hair in my eye. So I want to say, when all of that was going on, especially while I was pregnant, I was very mindful of the energy I was giving them. And I think that carried on to afterwards too. So I was dealing with all of these adversities and dealing with taking care of them. And I think my body was still riding that wave of, be mindful of the energy that you give, and do they deserve to see you like this? But also, do I deserve to feel the way that I do? That's human. And so to be honest, I went through a lot of different emotions, and their dad and I came out really strong as co-parents. I couldn't have asked for a better co-parent situation, and we truly put our kids first, and it shows in every way. Like, we don't have that drama, and we don't have that, because we know that our kids mean the most to us. So with that, I don't have that kind of like support with them. It's really just me, and if my family wants to be there and help them out, that's cool. And then he has his schedule of having them on certain days. And I mean, we started that up when they were 3 months old. So that was tough. That was like being away from your 3-month-old babies and them being so young. And I think the entire time we tried to think of everything positively that will make them adaptable, that will make them know both sides of their family really well, we just tried to look at things really positive, and really go move about things positively. But raising them has been the biggest, hardest job of my life. Like, I love working. I would devote myself to work. Like I said, I wanted to be really devoted to something. And having them, I was like, this is the hardest job I've ever had. This is like 24/7, seriously. But at the same time, I think I underestimated that. So recently I just started school, and I was like, all right, I could do this. I could tackle school and them at the same time. I'm doing it for their future. I may not be able to work really, but I'll do something to better our future. And I'm starting to actually realize that, oh my God, this is actually too much. Having them is so hands-on, and so I can't just have them sit there and cry or what. I'm so like with them. If they need me, I'm there. If they cry, I'm there. I'm not really a cry it out type of person. I'm developmentally, I want them to rely on me, and I want them to know that I'm going to be there when they cry. I want them to know that their mom's going to sit there and play with them if they need. And so I'm absolutely going to finish out the semester with school, but I think I'm going to wait a while until I'm ready, and still give them what I can of me.
Yeah. Kudos to you, because that sounds like a lot for sure. Like, as a single mom, to be doing school work, 2 babies. I'm in school right now too, in a graduate program, and I'm still pregnant, and it feels like a lot. So like, I can't imagine having her here and like having to juggle all that too. So definitely take your time. There's no rush. School will always be an option. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That is awesome. And it's like, it's not just like having one baby. crying is like you could have both of them, you know, and do they usually need attention at the same time, or are they kind of like at different moments, you know? Because they just from like Instagram, it looks like they have two completely different personalities. And I think that's probably true, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have Pisces babies. I don't know how anybody feels about astrology, but not that I live by it, but I definitely take it in. So they say that Pisces twins are very considerate of their sibling.
Mhm.
So, and it's shown. So when one is crying and needs attention, the other kind of falls back and kind of goes into his own world and like plays and does his thing, and vice versa. They're very switched. So when one needs something, the other doesn't need it. When one needs it, and they're so like Zachariah, he's my sweet boy. Like he's so kind. He's got all this personality. He just talks all day. Like he like lectures. He'll sit there and he'll just like talk and he'll move his hands and he'll point. And he's so full of personality. And then Zaire is very to himself. Like he's got a tight circle and he's keeping it that way. He doesn't really like too many people around him. But
Are they identical twins?
yes,
Oh.
they are identical. But it's beautiful to watch their personality blossom, but also they go through stuff at the same time. They tease at the same time, they frolic at the same time, they poop at the same time. Like they really are in sync, but very different.
That's funny.
Did you happen to breastfeed, or because you said you pumped, right? So I've heard that when babies are in the NICU, moms kind of lose the opportunity to breastfeed depending on how long they're there. And so what was your experience with that? Like how did that, because I know it's already a lot for women when they try to breastfeed and they're not producing enough. And then, you know, like that turns into this whole mental thing of like, why is it not working? And so I can only imagine with two, it was, yeah.
It was, that's another emotional one for me. I had this plan of I will breastfeed until they don't want it anymore. Like I wanted to be the source of nourishment for them. But I also saw a family member of mine go through a lot of mental hardships while I was pregnant. She went through a lot of mental hardships of not being able to feed her baby. He wouldn't latch, and that was really tough for her. And he went through kind of like a hunger type thing. And I remember expressing to her, fed baby is all that matters. But without me knowing truly what that felt like, I was giving her advice, I was considering the emotional pull that probably had for her. But I wasn't going through it. So that was a learning moment for me, because when I went through it, I had to take my own advice. And so when they came out, they didn't need a feeding tube. They took to a bottle right away, but I didn't get that straight out for them to latch. You know, they didn't have that immediate source. So when I would visit them in the NICU and try to nurse them, they wouldn't latch to me because they immediately liked and felt the bottle. So my body really didn't know how much I needed to produce. I started pumping immediately, which they say you can kind of wait a couple days till your milk comes in. It's okay. But I started pumping immediately, but my body still, because it didn't get that pull from them, your body is sounds weird. Our nipples are so smart. They once our baby attaches, our body knows if they're sick, our body knows what they need, how much they need, if they're cluster feeding, like our body kind of instantly
Communicate,
just knows what they need. And so because I didn't have that, I pumped as much as I could and did as much as I could for 3 weeks to a month.
Mm.
And then I wasn't producing enough for them. Like I was staying on top of pumping so much where I had enough to feed them. And then it kind of went to, I'm pumping right before they're eating. And then it went to, I'm pumping like fresh for them. I was running out of my supply. And then but right when I started to pump before their feeds, I started to realize and stock up on formula, because I didn't want them to go hungry. I didn't want them to wait for me to have to pump. I didn't want to not pump enough and they weren't eating enough. Like I said, I took my own advice and I was like, you know what? Even if they have to have formula, that's okay. They'll have for me. And then probably a week after that, my body kind of just completely stopped producing. And um, that was a little bit hurtful. I felt like, wow, I felt kind of that failing moment that my body didn't do that for them. And as much as I really wanted that to happen, like I said, I kind of put to rest my birth plan, me wanting to have them naturally. So instead of like beating myself up about those things, I just let them go. I was like, they're healthy, they're happy. That's it. That's all that matters.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just beautiful listening to your story. I think that's a message that everyone needs to hear, including myself. Because I'm very much like that. Like I was just talking to my doula about this the other day, like, well, I really have this plan in my head about how I want it to go. And she's like, like, it's okay to have that, but just start to prepare yourself for other options. Well, what's going to happen if you have to have a C-section? Like how are you going to respond? And then like, what do you want it to look like then, if that's your truth? Like, and so just that message that I think, and we kind of talked about this last time with all of our different plans for how we want to give birth, is just that, like, and I love how you said it, Kate, it's just like my birth plan is flexible, because it's just the way it has to be. Like, and we see all these normal stories, right, of like people having water births and people having this type of birth and whatever the case may be, when really, like you said, it's just your body can do those things for you, but it also has to be ready. It just has to align the right way in order for that to happen. And so I think that's a message for all of our listeners right now. Is just, if you're pregnant, or if you're on the journey to getting pregnant, or whatever your truth is, or maybe you've already experienced it and it didn't go the way you wanted, very much how Terri's experience is just like, that's okay. At the end of the day, the whole point and the whole purpose of what we do and what our bodies are made to do is just to deliver the baby and get the baby here safely, and healthy. So I think it's okay to not, don't beat yourself up for the things that didn't go well, in your pregnancy or during delivery or even after. Like, just, you're a mother, right? And that's just the beauty of it all. Your children are healthy, and that's another blessing, right? Especially carrying twins and also having like higher risk. Again, like, we're singular moms, so we're just one of where there's only one in there. So either way, just being humbled by that, for sure. It was humbling for me just listening. I'm just like, oh yeah, I need that reminder, because I'm very like that too, where it's like, I want a natural birth and I want this and I want that and this and this and this. And she's like, yeah, okay, we're going to roll with that. And also be prepared to take a detour. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's important to not like self-sabotage ourselves for things that may not, if our plan gets a little skewed away, just being flexible in our mind, being forgiving towards ourselves, and just understanding the ultimate goal is to just have a healthy baby. So, I really want to do it naturally, and I feel like I will be sad if I'm not able to, but I like how you said that, and that was just like a reinforcer, a reminder to me to just let it go, because once it's done, the babies are here, really you can't do anything about it. So it's like, why am I tripping anyway? Like you're just holding on to disappointment for no reasons. Definitely understand.
Yeah. How would you say
And then
now?
you're celebrating your first birthday, you know, like that's crazy.
Right. Yeah, and truly thinking back on it, that's what it is like thinking back on it. And now I have every day with them. And I remember being super hell-bent on having the same doctor deliver. The doctor I saw every appointment, I wanted her to be there to deliver because she knew me. Her values aligned with mine, and we were both on the same page that whatever we have to do to get them here safely is whatever needs to be done. So, and I remember, I can't remember quite, I think I got the advice from a few different people. Because I wanted a doula, and just the vision that I had was so strong. And I remember getting the advice like, what if your doctor's not on call that night? What if your doctor has a family emergency and can't be there for you, and you have to deliver with somebody that you have never met before? After I got that advice, I met every single doctor in that practice. I had an appointment with every single doctor. While I had my hospital stays, I made sure to meet every single doctor that could potentially deliver my babies. And that night, I met with one of the coolest ones. She delivered my babies. And it was awesome it wasn't my original doctor, but she wasn't on call that night. So those things happened, and I was grateful that I took that mindset and knew the person. And she came in, and as soon as she saw me, she was like, oh yeah, you're probably ready, because we sent you home to bake a little bit more and to enjoy yourself. So she knew when she saw me that I was ready, because she had cared for me prior. And them celebrating their first birthday, I have been emotional for a week. I have been crying for a week, because my tiny babies, Zachariah was 5 pounds 1 ounce, Zaire was 4 pounds 12 ounces, and now they're longer than my torso. They're big, they're strong, and they were a month early, but they're right on track with their growth. And it's crazy. Time flies. It truly, truly flies. Like, enjoy every single moment of being pregnant. I loved even in pain, even in despair, even when I couldn't walk, I was like, gosh, you're inside of me. Like, I'm literally growing you. Like, I'm growing a human. I miss it so much. I miss it.
Aw, that's great. Do you think that, or would you like to have more kids in the future? No.
No. I only wanted 2, and I thought it was a godsend. I was extraordinarily blessed that I had both of the kids I wanted at the same time. And I knew I was done then. And I think especially, I would get asked the question a lot, because I actually wanted my tubes removed after, not just tied, I wanted them removed. And actually, while I was delivering, I got a little bit scared. I didn't want anything taken away from me, so I decided against it. But I remember my doctor asking me, well, I mean, what if your relationship doesn't work out? And at the time, I was like, we're for life. Like, we're getting married, and we have kids, and you don't know how life is going to work out. We ended up not working out. And she was like, okay, well, what if you meet another person and you want kids with them? And that's something I'm firm about. The partner that I choose later on in life, if I find a partner or whatever happens, I have the kids I need, and I need my partner to respect that and know that I don't want any more kids. I'm okay with the kids I have. I want to give them everything I have. I don't think I could share any more energy with another child. Like, I want them to have every piece of me, which, growing up, I wish I had someone to give every piece of themselves to me. And so, now I'm on a 10-year birth control, and I'm super happy about that, but I definitely don't want any more kids.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like what you said too. Like, I think about, I have a friend who has been trying to get her bachelor's for like 5 years. And like it's like after kids, right? And so like she was already trying to get her bachelor's before kids, but then she had like one kid, and like she was very adamant, like, I'm going to get this. Like I have to get it by any means necessary. And then another kid came, and so now it's like, whew, it's still far removed, like in life was already happening before kids. And so now it's like, it's still far removed, but it's still a goal that I have. And it's just like, I just think about like, even just, and that brings me to like ask you just like, how do you take care of yourself? Knowing that like kind of like something that you really want has to be kind of put to the side for now. Until like you said, like you're ready. And so because of that, like, I don't know what you do full time. Maybe if you just want to talk a little bit about that, but just kind of like how you balance taking care of you and also knowing that you want to give the twins everything that you possibly can. How do you manage like your days when like it's just you and the babies and you're tired and it's just like, ugh, like what? How do you structure that for yourself?
Even on your days off too, like when you're
Yeah,
baby
what
free,
is
like
that?
what do you do for yourself as like self-care?
So that's a kind of a level of, and I feel like I'm going so in depth with these questions, so I'm sorry for taking time, but
You're good.
that's a level question because I've always been very driven. I'm very goal oriented. So I like set short-term daily goals to short-term month goals to yearly goals to 5-year goals. Like I try to do that for myself. Um, their dad is actually the person that taught me that to be gentle with myself. I will set a goal and my mind is attached to the expectation of the end goal, that if it doesn't happen exactly how my mind sees it, I'm extremely disappointed and slightly hurt, and I'm hurt with myself. And so over the years, I've learned to kind of go with the flow and be extremely gentle with myself. If it doesn't happen, like with school right now, I planned in 2.5 years, I would be getting my associates. I would transfer to UNM. Once I transferred to UNM, I was going to get a part of a program where I can start. I want to be a therapist, a cognitive therapist. So once I got to UNM, I could start this program where I can start working with people who have drug addiction issues, because that's the type of program that you can still do while you're in school. That goes to say now I can only complete one semester and I'm gonna have to wait. So this whole plan that I had written out for myself is gonna take a lot longer than I planned. But I'm okay with that. With that being said, I put self-care as my priority. Self-care is a priority for me. Which sometimes makes me feel a little bit selfish. I never take away from them, but at the end of the day when they're sleeping, that's time for me to love on myself. That's time for me to take a shower, and some days I don't, and I'm gentle with myself. I'm like, oh, you didn't take a shower? It's okay. We can go 4 days without showering. Like there's many weeks where on Thursday, I'm like, I literally haven't showered since Monday. And as gross as that it's fine. Like I'm taking care of my kids, but when I don't have them, I choose for that to be me time entirely, because if I'm not all there mentally and I'm not loving myself and I'm not appreciating myself and I'm not setting things up that I know, like for me, my space is everything. My space will tell you how I'm feeling. Like if my home is a mess, if I'm, that means I'm a mess. So I choose a time that I'm not with them to get things together to prepare me for the week so that I am mentally there for them. Because if I'm whole, I'm able to pour onto them. And if I'm not, I don't have much in the tank. I choose to spend that time, like on some days when I'm super tired, I am a mess. I'm thinking about all the things I have to do. I have mountains of laundry. I have dishes. I have homework. And I'm just drained. I'll sit in the play yard with them and grab a pillow and a blanket, and I let them play around me, and they're content with having me in their space. And they'll take a nap on me. We take a nap together. It's I choose those days just to do the bare minimum, because if I overexhaust myself, I'm frustrated with myself. I'm frustrated with them. I'm frustrated. And if the second I get frustrated with them, I check myself. I'm like, okay, you're frustrated with yourself. It's not them. But it's my mental health is the most important thing to me, because it's a direct reflection of what I give to them. So if I'm happy, they're happy. I think that's, if I'm sad, I'm gonna make them sad. I don't know. Like, I just feel like my energy is a reflection of their energy. And so I put that first.
What's your astrological sign?
I'm a Capricorn.
You're a Taurus?
You're what?
I'm a Capricorn.
You're a Capricorn.
Oh, Capricorn. My boyfriend's a Capricorn. They're great.
Jordan.
Really?
Very driven, goal-oriented, hardworking people.
Yeah, I'm a Virgo, so you're talking and I don't know, you sound like me. I'm like, ooh. She sounds like me when I become a mom. But I'm gonna be thinking about you, Terri. I'm gonna be like, okay, release the control, because I am very much like a perfectionist, and just listening to you talk is just like, okay, all right, okay. No doubt, for sure. And so would you say, like, how has your relationships changed, maybe with your friends or like your social life? Like, what does that look like for you?
Y'all are really hitting on every. This is great. Well, the type of person I am is I seclude myself when I need to recharge. So I've gone through phases of that in my life, and some to the extreme. So right before I met their dad, I was very, very secluded in myself. I took a look around and I was like, the friends that I have aren't really holding space for me. They're not growing with me. They're not honoring my growth. They're not. So I secluded myself away from them. I found him into my life, and he was a very inspiring person to me. Just the way he lived and the way he is to people. I mean, he has like 8 best friends and talks to them every single day. And, he has hundreds of other friends who he keeps in contact with. And that was inspiring. And all of his friends were inspiring, and they were all growing and chasing dreams. And that was exactly what I needed. So I filled my life with all of these people that I love so much, and that I grew from just watching them grow. And they I think at any point in your life, the type of people that you need are inspiring people. Whether they inspire you to do something that you want to do, or inspire you to do something that you never thought you'd do. I filled my life with those people. So I pulled myself out of this crazy depression. I think I chose to heal. I had a lot of healing to do. I healed from a lot of childhood traumas. I healed from, and it took me about like 3 years, but he was very supportive through that. So fast forward to us deciding that, we weren't going to work out, which was a definite pull on me. And losing the person that I thought I would have in my life forever. I would, have in my corner forever, which he still is, very much so in my corner. Just, it looks different, and that's okay. But people, the way we see it is different than anybody else. I think if you were to I guess to make this relatable, if you were to lose your significant other, how many people would take his side? And not like that, but like how many people would feel like their loyalty lies, you know, people feel like, oh shoot, well now I gotta like decide, like, am I gonna be there for her? Am I gonna be there for him? I knew him first and I love her. So people felt just, I totally support and appreciate anybody's viewpoint. But a lot of our friends felt that in their heart. And so I lost a lot of people through us not being together, and a lot of people whom I loved so much and who I thought were my brothers and sisters and still are. They're very, you know, they're be there for the twins, and that's okay. But I had to understand that our relationship changed as well. And through me having kids and it being a pandemic, I haven't had that support system that I maybe needed, but also me being a secluding person, it benefited. So I was able to grow and recharge and look at things differently and appreciate the moment I was in life to myself. So now I look at everything differently. I look at you know, maybe those friends weren't there for me at the time because they too were going through a lot and they didn't want to burden me, or maybe I look at things so different. But and also any season of your life where you feel like you lose people, or you feel like you know, you're sad for that loss, life and the universe provide what you need. So me going through that time of losing the friends that weren't there for me, I gained so many people who I needed at that time. So now me feeling like I'm losing these people, I know in my heart that the universe is going to provide tenfold what I need at the time. I trust in timing. So like, if my goals can't pan out in 2.5 to 4 years, I know that what's for me is going to be for me, whether it be friends, jobs, school, work, whatever. I trust that what I'm doing now is what I'm meant to do.
It's facts.
Yeah, that's so spot on. I feel like you're just like preaching to the choir, because I feel like I've definitely been in like a shedding phase, you know, and it's hard. And the pandemic has been hard, and like realizing like friends kind of distant, and especially being pregnant, I just don't hear from anyone. And so it's hard not to take things personally. And so I've really just had to be like, think about that, like they're going through their own thing. I'm going through something different, you know, like whatever's happening, I feel like it's kind of cultivating something new. And so like just this year, like recently, you know, I feel like I've been like, the pandemic has been really lonely for me, and I just like started being like, this baby's bringing something new, I'm going to start just pouring into that. And I did like an intuitive coaching certification. So I like met all these other women who are following, like learning more about their intuition and like how to help people with intuition and like stuff like that. And I just finished that a couple of weeks ago. And then like Donna and Aaliyah asked me to do this. And so like I've been like poured into like pools where I feel like I've been needing. And so I'm just like, that's so true. I could just cry because of pregnancy emotions. But
No, it's true. I feel like I've been experiencing the same thing. People who I was friends with, had closer friendships with, it's like being pregnant, you just develop a hyper awareness, and like there's some things you just don't want your child to be around, that you just don't care for anymore. And it's like, if you're not growing with me, you know, not even that we're doing the exact same things in life, but if you're not growing or progressing at all, then that relationship has to change. And you know, it's always all love at the end of the day, but you know, everyone's not meant to stick in your life forever, and that's absolutely okay. And I feel like once some certain people do leave, or if certain friendships, relationships do die off, you're always blessed with something greater. So you can't like drown yourself in that sorrow, and just understand, like you said, the universe will bless you with something greater. So And that's definitely been evident with the podcast that we created. I mean, me and Donnie have known each other for a little while now, but definitely became a lot closer since becoming pregnant. And like, that's definitely a friendship I've appreciated, and it's been helpful. Just having someone there with you while you're pregnant who's going through the same thing as you. And then just creating this whole podcast has been super helpful too. We're just a community of mothers, we be able to share advice with each other, definitely looking forward to that. So I appreciate you ladies a lot.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse my eyes. It's windy now. And so literally this big clock of snow just flew. Wait a minute. Power lines, are y'all good? But yeah, no, it's definitely it's awesome just to, have this space in this community. And I think even a lot of what you touched on applies to just us as women in general, right? We go through a lot, and expectations for us are higher, and regardless, we have more responsibilities. But I definitely think that having such a space is important. I always tell, and this may just lead us right into our next episode, since this is probably where we're landing on. It's just like how things change, but it's definitely like I always say, like, yeah, I have a husband, and yeah, I'm married, and like that's an honor, and that's a blessing. Like, I don't take it lightly. However, if not even if me and my partner, like not even me and my partner, if me and Mike were to separate, like that would be one thing. But like outside of the negative, like even if something were to happen to him, right, and I were to lose him, or he would pass away, or whatever the case may be, like I still believe that, like, as a woman, I still need friends. Like I still need people. I still need community. And so since being pregnant, like my relationships have stood the same. It's just the view of those relationships and the priority has changed. So like there's just certain aspects of my friends that like I would have made time to have capacity for, as to where now I just choose not to make. I don't have the capacity for that. But I still want to like keep that. I feel like I have to keep that friendship, because I'm like, well, you're a good person, just like not in this season in my life. I don't know, right? But this season is forever, because I'm always going to have my kid, and I'm always going to have to put them first, and I'm always going to be sensitive and hyper vigilant about what I'm giving to them, because maybe my capacity is trying to take care of you, because as you stated, very similar to, like, I am a caregiver, like I am a nurturer. I love to take care of people. I've always been the mom of my friends. Like I've always been just like the one that they're just like leaning on, which is amazing. I love it. Because I love to be everything I can be for myself, and I love to be everything I can be for them. But it's definitely just like, what is self-care going to look like? Because usually it's, oh, I call my friends and we just do what we do and that's it, right? And so now becoming a mom and having a baby, I need mom friends, but I still want my friends. And so it's just like, how do you mesh the two where, again, it's like you still feel connected in a sense, to those people that were once there, prior to you having a kid, that have grown with you and have continued to, pour into that friendship and that space. So, but yeah, I think, self-care is important, whatever it looks like for you, whether it's having friendships or, like you said, just checking your energy, being in different spaces, different things like that. Gotta do what you gotta do for you. So
I will say quickly, connection is hard. I strive for connection. I yearn for connection, yet have to realize that I'm the type of person that needs my space and my alone time. So I found myself saying sorry a lot. People would reach out to me or want to call me, and I didn't have the capacity to hold that space for them or talk to them or anything. And I found myself being like, I'm so sorry. Like, it took me a week to respond, but I love you. And I'm here for you. Kind of, it felt really, I was constantly apologizing. And then probably a couple months ago, I realized, why am I apologizing? It is okay. It's okay. Like, time moves how it moves. If people love me and understand and care for me, they'll understand that I need this time for myself. And if they don't understand, then they gently walked themselves out of my life. Connection is going to be very hard, and I think you'll balance it how you balance it. But I don't know if you'll be one of those to be like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, or if you'll like just take it how it is. But I remember being heavily apologetic, and now I am unapologetic. I'm like, you know what? You want to be in my life? I take 3 to 5 business days to respond. Or sometimes I'm blowing you up. I don't know.
Yeah. Mommy life.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a task, but a beautiful one for sure. That's why we unravel it, because it's always unraveling. There's always something.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's always something.
Guys, for having me and letting me talk to you and share my experience. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yes. You shed some jewels, dropped some gems for sure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure for sure. So definitely, ladies, if you want to, tune in to Terri's page on Instagram and say hello. Look at our boys.
What's your IG name?
It's like
Terri Free Spirit.
Yeah.
Follow her on IG, guys. Check her out.
Say hello. Show her some love. Send some good energy, because she just went through all her beautiful story with pregnant with twins and then mothering twins, and still trying to accomplish a lot for herself, which is amazing, right? So never let yourself go is also what I heard a lot from you today. Just never let you go and put yourself first, no matter what, because you're your biggest asset, right? So whether you have kids or you don't, pour into yourself.
For sure. Well, I think that wraps up our episode today. You guys don't forget to follow us on IG at Mommyana.podcast. If you guys have questions, go ahead and slide in those DMs. You can email us at mommyana.podcast@gmail.com, and stay tuned for our next episode, where we will be going more into depth about like friendships, our relationships, have any of those changed. Just keep an eye out and continue to follow us. But that's it. Thanks for joining us again, Terri. And to all of our followers, hope you guys have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.